Hello, my name is Ray Libbert and I'd like to welcome you to my presentation number 4, which is creating a prototype. Before we can make an innovative prototype, first we have to find a problem and then find a solution for that problem. The problem we'd like to focus on and highlight today is a table saw that is not large enough to cut a full sheet of plywood in half. The table saw I have in my shop can only cut a 25-inch piece width between the blade and the fence to guide it. So a full sheet of plywood that is 96 inches long, you can't cut it in half, so that creates a problem when you're trying to use larger sheeting. And also, because it's a table saw and it's sheeting goods, you can't cut a large piece of sheeting good with a precision angle cut. That's something you can't do, and even the larger table saws don't have that capability. But the problem is in the market today, it's focused on the larger industrial, commercial size things. It's not really focused on the backyard woodworker. And so, you know, if I wanted to go and buy a larger table saw for $1,500 plus, yeah, I could get a table saw that could cut a large piece of plywood, and that would work, even though it still wouldn't cut the angle. Now, the solution to this problem is actually expanding an idea that is already used on the table saw. Every table saw comes with a miter gauge, which shows here in the picture, and it's actually used just for small goods, like 2x4s, small goods, just to do a cross cut. You can do angles on them as well. So what we're going to do is that for the solution is we're actually going to expand this idea. As you can see on the table saw here, that the miter gauge follows a slot that's in the table saw, and every table saw has those slots for the miter gauge. So now I'd like to introduce you to the clamping slide guide. What it does is it actually clamps onto your sheet goods or your piece of plywood, rather than having a fence on the table that you're guiding your sheet goods through the blade. What you're doing is there's going to be a clamp on the sheet goods that'll actually guide your cut. So using much the same principle as the miter gauge, this guide will follow those slots in the table saw. It also clamps, right, like I said, onto the sheeting goods, so it gives you a good stable cut, and it'll also be able to give you an angle cut. So I hope you understand how this solution works. So we have the sheeting goods, we have the clamp that clamps onto it, and the guide will just follow those grooves in the table saw. This allows us to cut a full sheet of plywood, right down the middle if we have to, right at 48 inches, or wherever we need to have that cut made. It'll be a precision cut, because it's just as good as if you have a fence there, but we can also do better than what a normal fence will do on a normal table saw, is we also put the guide at an angle. And once we put the guide at an angle, then we will actually be able to make an angle precision cut on a piece of plywood. Most, even in the commercial size table saws, that's not possible. Usually they have to take a larger saw and basically a different way of doing it if they need to cut an angle. So here now, for the home builder in the backyard shop, we have an angle slide that allows us to cut a full piece of plywood wherever we want to, and it works great. I'd now like to invite you to a demo so you can see how it works.
Hi, I'd like to welcome you to my shop, and this is my invention. This is basically a cutting guide for the table saw. What I'm going to do is I'll be able to show you how I can cut a piece of wood square without a fence on the table saw, and also cut an angle. So first, okay, so this is it. Basically what it does, put it underneath the plywood or whatever you place it in. You bring it up to your preset marks. You got that square. You tighten it down onto the plywood. I've already got the mark there, so you can see where it's square. And again, this is because you can't cut this big a sheet of plywood on a table saw. It's only this big for a small shop area. Okay, so what we're going to do, again, as you see the rod here, is just going to go down here, and we're going to cut it. So just let me turn on real quick. is it'll also allow us to do angles. Just let me adjust it really quick. And we'll be able to do an angle. On a normal fence and normal table saw, you can't do angles. So let me show you how that is done. Sorry. Alright, sure. Okay, so we'll keep that one there. Move this one on an angle. And again, we can set this whatever angle we want or need for what we're doing. Okay, and we're almost done, so let's just show you a cut with an angle.